on this edition of the Self-Publishing Show.
I grew up very poor. I went to a library system for all my reading when I was a kid. That made me a lifelong reader. And so now, most of those books I read as a kid or series, I've gone out and bought. People that are tremendous readers have a library story from their childhood.
Publishing is changing. No more gatekeepers. No more barriers. No one standing between you and your readers. Do you want to make a living from your writing? Join indie bestseller Mark Dawson and first-time author James Blatch as they shine a light on the secrets of self-publishing success. This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Hello and welcome to the Self-Publishing Show on a Friday from our lockdown UK. This is me, James Blatch.
And me, Mark Dawson, in a different place.
In a different place, more than 2 meters apart, a couple hundred miles apart. So we've been doing this for years. Everyone else is suddenly discovering Zoom, aren't they? And remote working and all the rest of it. But this is how we live our lives. So we're, as always, ahead of the curve, Mark.
Yes, and by a different place, I didn't mean we were next to each other. I meant that I'm recording in a completely different place. So I'm not, because I can't leave my house at the moment, I can't go to the office. So I'm actually in the study at the moment.
You are on rural broadband, but it's holding up well at the moment.
Yep, well, that will, as I said to you just before we hit record, my kids are about to have their tea and they'll both switch on their iPads and start streaming on YouTube. So very, very soon I expect this is going to go completely tits up. But anyway, it's a first world problem.
It is, considering what else is going on at the moment. Let me just press on and do our most important thing, which is to welcome our new Patreon supporters this week. Delighted to say a big shout out for Matty Dalrymple, which is a good author name, I think. Helen Wilkie, Ellie Barker, Kristen Etheridge from Texas in the United States. They're not all from Texas, the United States. In fact, Eddie Barker, I happen to know, is close to your part of the world, in the West Country, an old BBC chum of mine who's going to be a fabulous author, I'm sure. But we welcome you all if you go to selfpublishingformula.com / I've forgotten it now. What do we call it?
This is your job.
Yeah, Self-Publishing Show, isn't it? Is it Self-Publishing Show? Why have I forgotten that?
I don't know. Probably
I'm sure if you search on Patreon, you'll find us. Patreon.com / self-publishing show. That's what it is, because I got the beginning bit wrong. Patreon.com / self-publishing show. Okay, look, we're going to have a quick chat, I think, about the COVID situation, and we have a good interview coming up in a moment, recorded just as things started to go south in that sense. I think the first thing we should say, Mark, is that we wish everybody who's listening to this, we hope that you're safe and that you're well, that you're obeying the guidelines, which is important for all of us. We know that lots and lots of people are going to be affected from this illness. For most people, we know it won't be serious. For some, it will be serious, and we know lives are going to be touched by that. So we're a community in this together, and we hope that we can support each other. And certainly our best wishes go to everybody who listens to the show at this time. The second thing to say is we alluded to this before, I think, Mark, is that we're in the long term, I think, for authors, selling books online and doing online work is a good place. If your 9-to-5 job is not in that area, it might be in a field that's more directly affected. Again, our thoughts go out to you about that, but keep your focus perhaps on the ebooks. And we've started to see some noise from the retailers, Amazon in particular, that there has been an uptick in sales, have we not?
Well, I don't know about that in particular, but I mean, I can speak towards ebooks because there's been I've seen a big increase, really, really strong week, 30-40% up, based on historical numbers. And there's a number of reasons why that is. I did a little I'm going to do some Facebook lives during my dog walks in the morning. I did a couple this morning, and one thing I mentioned was that ads are much cheaper now, much cheaper, maybe 60-70% cheaper, because the big budgets of the corporations are not being spent on ads at the moment. Facebook still has the same number of ad slots to sell, and that means that there's less competition. So I'm seeing CPC on UK ads of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pence, which is really cheap in the genre that I write in. And then you combine that with the fact that the audience is stuck at home with nothing to do, so they really want to read. And then you add on top of that the fact that digital delivery means that they don't have to go to the shops, which are closed anyway, and they don't have to take an Amazon package from someone who hands it to them at the door, because there's no physical item. So and it's just very convenient. So there's a number of things that combine to make what we do. I can't really think of an industry that is as well equipped, well placed to deal with something like this as being an author selling books digitally. Music, perhaps, but books is pretty much perfect. So it's all it's, as I said this morning, there's lots and lots of clouds on the horizon at the moment, but some of those clouds have quite nice silver linings, and if you're looking for one, that is a pretty good one, I think.
Yeah, I think maybe we should think about putting together an episode more specifically about actions authors should be taking or could be taking at the moment, and perhaps using some of your own experience recently of launching books and your own sales figures. So should we try and say in the next couple of weeks we'll do that? It's a bit difficult for us to plan everything at the moment because we are, like everyone, slightly disrupted about things, particularly from a family point of view. But let's see if we can do that in the next couple of weeks. Good. Okay. Well, it is a very strange time, and it affects writing in more ways than one. It's not just about your sales, your marketing, your 9-to-5 jobs. It's also about themes of books. I saw Ian Rankin on social media a couple of days ago saying every writer will now start thinking that their current work in progress may feel odd and different because of the context of everyone's lives has changed, and that the future books will be, I think, influenced and swayed by this. I think the best thing probably, Mark, is to set your book in the 1960s.
Yes. Who could possibly have done that? That was Stephen King, not Ian Rankin. I saw that.
Was it Stephen King? Yes, you're right. It was Stephen King. Ian Rankin's also saying stuff, but he didn't say that. So we've got bits to talk about, I think, and we finally got ourselves kind of out of the back end of the conference of the 101 launch, and a few things have gone down. I've actually set some quiet time down today and done some accounts and all that stuff, catching up. So starting to feel that we might have some time back in our lives. Me more than you, because my children look after themselves. Your children require constant supervision.
Mine don't. So my last week, the only time I could reliably do work was I was getting up at 5. And then working from 5:30, 6 o'clock till 9, so maybe 3.5 hours in the morning, and that was pretty much the only time I could get. And it was fine for about the first 3 days, and then Friday I was absolutely exhausted. It was kind of like, even though I was going to sleep much earlier, I don't think my body is really meant for that kind of really early working. Although I like working in the mornings, but I think that might be pushing it a bit too much. So I'm just thinking about how I'm going to work this. Whether I work later at night and get up later in the morning. I don't know. It's tough. We've been doing this for 2 weeks now. My production is way, 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 way down, but that's completely understandable. And also, again, another upside, although, looking after kids, mine are 8 and 6 now, so fairly demanding. On the other hand, it's actually, I'm having some lovely moments with my kids. So my daughter Freya and I usually walk the dog together every day, so that's 6 kilometers, and she really likes being out with me, talking to me about that stuff. And then this afternoon, this is my study, and it's also a little kind of home cinema. So we just downloaded Frozen 2 and all watched that together. So it was really nice. And I don't even know what day it is anymore. I think it's Sunday, but I'm not I'm not entirely sure. Everything's blending into one another. But so it's nuts. But we just have to do our best.
I did see a funny tweet from a UK journalist saying on Friday, he said, we understand reports coming in, it's Friday, we're waiting for this to be confirmed.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
It does feel like that at the moment. Yes, I completely agree. And I often get back off holiday, we tend to take 1 or 2 weeks in the summer and go away, and thinking, how much I've enjoyed being that close to the children and that close to the family for such a period of time. And there's a bit of that going on now. We're doing that. My teenage daughter obviously does spend a reasonable amount of time lying on her bed watching Netflix. William and I are a bit more active in the garden, but even Emily is taking part in life a lot more around the house. You can't avoid each other. We had karaoke night last night, which obviously I sing like an angel, so it was a beautiful experience for everyone else. Okay, look, let's save some of the COVID stuff for next week. I think maybe next week or the week after that, we'll let you know. We'll keep you up to date in our Facebook groups when we're going to do that episode, and we'll talk about all aspects of this. We may even have a guest on. But we do have a guest this week, Mark, because we have Dan Wood from Draft2Digital, who a plucky, hardy soul who made it across the States, from the States to our conference in London. He was going to come over for London Book Fair as well. But on the day London Book Fair should have been taking place on that Tuesday, we met up. I was going to say we hooked up in my hotel room. That's, in an American sense, is not the right thing to say. We met up in our abandoned hotel room. Sense. Yeah, and sat down and chatted to Dan really about what's been developing and happening in Draft2Digital. He talks a bit at the beginning about the basics of what they do and how they do it, which we always, I know, not everyone's familiar with every organization and every term. And then some quite interesting stuff, particularly for people who wouldn't necessarily use an aggregator, i.e. people who are exclusive with Amazon. So other areas, other avenues that are opening up on platforms like Draft2Digital, and there are other aggregators around, of course. Okay, so let's hear from Dan, and then Mark, you and I can have a quick catch up off the back.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Dan Wood, here we are amongst the debris of what's left of the London Book Fair.
Yes, we had a great day yesterday.
A fantastic day yesterday. The conference that did go ahead.
It went ahead. It survived. I imagine you guys are exhausted after all of that.
Not too exhausted to have a good chat with you and a catch up, because I know there's been some developments in Draft2Digital we want to talk about. But I would just say we are in the Olympia Hilton, which is like the prime hotel for the London Book Fair, and yet there's no London Book Fair. Now, we recognise some of the faces downstairs, but I think meetings are going ahead, but there's...
Yeah, it looks like maybe a before London Book Fair conference was planned here, and they just kept it anyway. So.
Yeah. So anyway... We are going to talk about D2D, and I think you've hit a milestone recently, which is great news. Just tell us about that.
We have. We just hit 200,000 books. We're getting close to our 8th anniversary as a company. So we have 200,000 books that are live that we distribute worldwide to hundreds of retailers, thousands of libraries. So we're very happy about that, and it's been just very steady growth, and like growing now just about faster than ever. So.
Yeah, and that's a key thing. You're growing faster than ever now. Why do you think that is the case?
Yeah, I think, we go to a lot of conferences throughout the year, and so we're getting the name recognition. The fact that we've been around for as long as we have is really helping. And I think we're seeing more and more people, with the number of books that are coming out, some authors are coming out of being exclusive with Amazon. And so, they're trying some of the other places to have a more diverse risk to their whole business.
Sure.
A lot of them are, hearing the news about the major publishers like Macmillan that aren't working with libraries, and they're wanting to take part with libraries. And our library sales have been growing tremendously this year.
Yeah, library is a really interesting area, and Joe Penn mentioned this at our SBS Live conference yesterday, that it's a bit of one of these money on the table situations that people leave because they don't work out they should be doing it.
A lot of people don't realize there's a couple of different business models with libraries, but in general with your library price, you're going to charge more because they are going to be checking out your book to multiple people throughout the time it's with the library system. And so, your library price, you can set it much higher. Your retail price might be $9.99 or $4.99, but your library price could be $24.99, $39.99. It's kind of up to you. If you are in the UK, Canada, or Australia, they have some government programs where they also pay you when your book is checked out from the library. So just all kinds of different ways you can make good money off of libraries. From talking to our partners at Findaway who help with audiobooks, they're also seeing a tremendous upsurge in sales to the library systems.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Good trend to know about. You mentioned KU. I mean, KU's not dwindling, it's not going anywhere,
no,
and yet
it's definitely growing.
Yeah, it's definitely growing. But you get a sense that there is a bit of a movement of people going wide.
I think so. If you look at the average KU payout, it's kind of settled a little bit lower than half a cent, which for a while was kind of fluctuating, and now it's kind of on the lower side. And so I think we're seeing people that are frustrated that payment's gone down a little bit. And also they're having to spend money on Amazon ads just to continue to be visible on that platform. And so they're trying the different other places. Not every genre works well wide. There's some genres that are fairly KU specific. They're kind of newer things. But a lot of the classic genres like mysteries and thrillers, fantasy, sci-fi, romance, all doing very well wide.
Yeah. So we should actually just spell out what it is D2D does. And I know aggregator is the kind of posh word for it, but just explain to an author who might be...
I do hate the word aggregator.
Yeah, it's not a great word, is it?
It's kind of I think it's a leftover from the video and music world. But we make it easy to get your book to all the different retail platforms there are out there. We primarily focus on the digital side. And so getting the ebooks and helping you get it into the bookstores like Amazon, Apple, Barnes & Noble, Kobo. And then we work with a number of international retailers. Our international sales have been growing for 5 or 6 years. 75% of our sales were in U.S. market. We're now kind of towards 60, where 60% of our sales are in the U.S. market and 40% of the rest of the world. We do very strongly in Canada and Australia. The UK market, it seems to be a little bit more, Amazon's a little bit more dominant, I think, in the UK market than it is even in America. So
that's interesting. And Kobo, of course, is a big retailer in Canada, which I guess might explain why you're Canada.
Exactly. Kobo is kind of the Amazon of Canada. And so when they think of an e-reader, they think of the Kobo device rather than the Kindle. But
They
they've
always
also
do something a little bit different in Canada, don't they?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. They also have partnered with a ton of international retailers, and so they handle the ebooks for W.H. Smith. They handle ebooks for Walmart in the U.S. market, a couple of different places in France, and so Kobo's been very internationally focused, and that's really paid off for them, I believe, because they've been our fastest growing retailer now for like the last 3 years.
Yeah, that's great. Who are the other big retailers then? What names should people be making sure their books are available if they're wide?
People frequently don't realize it, but Apple Books is definitely the second biggest digital retailer on the market by a fairly good margin now. Obviously Amazon the king. Barnes & Noble is still the third. And then after that, Kobo is getting close to Barnes & Noble, I'd say, from our numbers. I don't know if that would be true across the board for the industry. Then much further down would be like Google Play. People frequently think that there's so many Android devices, the Google Play must sell a lot of books, but they really don't sell that many. Library systems have began to kind of rise above some of the retailers. Overdrive is by far the largest of the digital retailers for library systems. And they're doing very well right now.
Are these ebooks?
Yes.
For life. So explain to me
Ebooks.
how that works. As I have to say, I haven't frequented my library for a while, perhaps since the kids were small.
Right.
So in my imagination, the library is still a physical book place.
Right. So it works in a couple of different ways. With Overdrive, they have their main business model, and it's been the one, most of the time when people are talking about Overdrive sales, they're talking about where the library system buys a copy of your book. They buy it at the library retail price, which is going to be higher. With all of the indie contracts, it's a perpetual license to them. With some of the traditional publishers, let them check it out so many times and then they have to buy a new copy. So the library buys your book, and then you can download an app. Like you have to have a library card. With Overdrive, the app is called Libby, and it lets you check out a book or an audiobook from wherever you are, as long as you've got your library card.
So this is an online virtual library.
Yes. And so it checks it out to you for 1 to 2 weeks, depending on what the library has chosen. And then it checks itself back in once you're done with it, or once that period of time has passed.
Do people pay a subscription for this, for the library
No,
card?
it's absolutely free. So especially for authors that are leaving Kindle Unlimited, and if they have their readers complain that they don't have money to go out and buy anything more than their Kindle Unlimited subscription, the author can let people know, hey, my books are available in the library systems, and all you have to do is request your library purchase this book.
And so the library, but with the library and a virtual library of that scale, would it purchase your book just the once for $30 or whatever?
Frequently, most of the
And
time.
that covers anyone in the world who wants to sign up to the app? Or is it
So
geo?
you have to have a library card. So you have to be a part of that library system.
Okay.
Generally with the library cards, they will check and make sure they'll ask you for like a utility bill or something to make sure you
So it's still a
actually live
local
there.
system of library
Yes.
card issue.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
There are other models where it's a kind of like the KU system kind of pays out if a person checks your book out and then reads some of it. There's a retailer we work with called Hoopla, where basically they make anything books that are in their system show up to all of the patrons. So it's not like you have to get a librarian to purchase your book before it's available in their system. your book will be in the system, and then if someone checks it out and reads it, then you get paid for it.
Okay.
So it's a slightly, you don't make as much as a sale, but like KU, like say you were in a town and doing a talk as a nonfiction speaker. If 100 people wanted to check your book out, they could, and you get paid for each one simultaneously. With the Overdrive system, typically what happens is if I check out the digital book, it treats it like a physical copy. So while I have it out, you have to wait and it's on hold for you. And then once I check it back in, then it comes to you.
Okay. So there's only one copy of the digital book, if you like. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Clever.
And every once in a while, if there's a high demand, there's like multiple holds for a book, library systems will buy multiple copies so that they can meet that demand.
That's a really
obviously
good system. Fair to the author.
It really is, yeah. They don't want to make their patrons wait forever. Yeah. So it's a great discovery mechanism because I know for me, I grew up very poor. I went to a library system for all my reading when I was a kid. That made me a lifelong reader. And so now most of those books I read as a kid or series, I've gone out and bought. And so it's just, when you think about the future, library discovery kind of has a part of most, of the people that are tremendous readers have a library story from their childhood.
Yeah, that's great. It's a bit like the 99 cents book, isn't it? That's getting the book into somebody's hands for the first time can pay dividends for years down the line. And if all this sounds complicated and people think, God, how am I going to do this? That's the whole point of Draft2Digital, right? You just tick a couple of boxes and you do all that for people.
Right. Our whole system's opt-in, and so if you want to go direct with some of these retailers, that you can. You get to pick and choose. We go to Amazon, but most of our customers do go directly to Amazon and then use us for the other retailers. But it's nice, instead of having to go to 8 or 9 websites and change your price or change your description, you change it to our website once and then we send it out to everyone. On the back end, we continue to check every day to make sure the books are listed and live and the way they're supposed to be at all of our retailers, because every once in a while, these are kind of complicated computer systems, things get messed up, and so we check and make sure prices are right, and just all that kind of goes on in the background without authors having to worry about it.
Yeah.
Then we handle like the payout, so you get one payment, you get one tax form from us, so just really simplifies your workload. And I would say what we've learned in working with authors now for the last 8 years is that authors never have enough time. So many of them are using tools like us. They might, choose to hire a virtual assistant or have a big team of people. So we just like to be a part of that.
And how much does this cost you to use? Cost an author to use?
So all of our services are free. We have no upfront charges or anything. While you distribute through us, we keep 15% of net of any of the sales that you make.
So of the royalty?
So
if Amazon, for instance, an example, pays 70%, you take 15% of the 70%.
Yes.
Yeah, not 15% of the overall price.
Yeah, 15% of the 70%.
Yeah.
So it generally works out to about 10% of the retail list price. Okay. So the retailer is going to hang on to that 30% chunk. Mm-hmm. But again, a theoretical $10 book, we would keep about $1. The retailer would keep $3, and the author would get $6.
Yeah.
So, we tried to line up our motivation with the author's best interests to make sure we're trying to sell their book. Because, there's a lot of companies out there that make their money off of the author themselves rather than helping the author make money.
Yeah. I mean, there are other aggregators that do charge a sort of monthly fee and low or no royalty fees. I guess at some point you must sit down and think and make a sort of fundamental review of your prices, but you've got no particular plans to change the way you operate. We
haven't seen any one of the different aggregators survive with that business model that didn't have some venture funding. We kind of, if you're charging that low of a price for things, it's generally too good to be true. We saw a couple of years ago, Pronoun came in and tried to do what we were doing for free, and they quickly went out of business with that model. It's not to say that we'd never look at some of like doing it as a service rather than our current model, but the economics of it don't seem to work out. For people who are exclusive with Amazon, you can, of course, whilst you can't distribute the ebook, you can distribute the print book wide. Correct.
So is that a viable option for people who are in KU to use Draft2Digital just for print?
So currently we are in beta with a print program to do print on demand. And so yes, so the exciting thing is if it's in your best interest to be exclusive with Amazon with your ebook, you still have your audiobook and your print books to reach a wide market. With audio, they do have, Audible gives you slightly better royalties if you are exclusive with Audible, but you don't have to be. Same thing with print on demand. You can have your book available through the Amazon system for where people, if they buy the book on Amazon, it can be shipped and done by Amazon printing. But you can also use services like our service or Ingram Spark to reach everyone and be available anywhere that books are sold online, as well as a lot of the bookstores and libraries won't buy books from Amazon Print, but they will buy them from the other print-on-demand retailers. So,
and I imagine this is quite a big area for you because that chunk of exclusive people must be fertile territory for you to at some point think, what can we offer them? And if there's a very viable print distribution only, why would you not do that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's, we go to conferences. The indie conferences are pretty split up, but there's a lot of people that are in KU, and so we're always looking at services that we can offer them, different things that let them, still be in KU, but we can still work with them.
Yeah. So how's the company itself doing? I know that Mark Lefebvre, I can never quite say
Lefebvre.
You can't say his surname either. So
that's why they always called him Mark from Kobo.
Yeah, Mark.
Now we're trying to make it Mark from Draft2Digital.
Yeah, well, I know Mark joined you, and bless he's not here because of the whole virus thing where everything was scaled down a little bit. But we'll see, hopefully catch up with Mark, lovely guy, later in the year. So you took on Mark, and is the company expanding in terms of personnel? You all work, what's the word? You work from home? Remotely. That's
we have... I'd say 10 or 11 of us are based all out of Oklahoma. Several of us went to college together, and that's kind of how we knew each other.
Are you a founder?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Okay.
I was the second employee to join the company, but it was about a year into, so I've been there most of the time. We have an office, and the majority of us meet there, but we do have 6 or 7 people kind of throughout the U.S. and then Mark in Canada. So everything we do, we can do remotely, which in these times of virus, that's probably a really good thing.
Yeah.
And we do, like, every Friday, we do remote work. And so that's kind of one of the perks of the company. And it's been nice, like when we have inclement weather, Oklahoma is known for tornadoes and all kinds of crazy weather. We can let people stay home and just work from there. We have expanded to, I think we're at 19 people now, and we have one joining us in April. To help with merchandising. So that's very exciting because me and Mark have kind of handled the merchandising, but we travel a lot, so it's hard to keep up with all the emails sometimes.
So when you say merchandising, what are we talking about?
We nominate books from our catalog for promotions at all of our retailers. They let us know kind of what they're looking for. A lot of times they'll have romance. Sometimes they're looking for like beach reads, so they want romance where there's like a beach on the cover. We did one recently, or we're working on one with Apple right now that's for nonfiction titles. And so we kind of go through and sort and look for what Apple might be interested in, what we think their merchandisers will like. And then we reach out to the authors and see if they'd be interested in taking part, because sometimes it requires a price discount. And then we just kind of arrange those. I'd say in the last year, we've gotten thousands of books promoted through Overdrive, through Kobo, through Apple, do stuff with Barnes & Noble. Some of the smaller international vendors we don't do a lot with yet, but we're always working on that. And so having another person to kind of email them and pester them, I'm hoping that will lead to a lot of new opportunities for our authors.
Cool. So the company's profitable?
It is. We're profitable. We're in a lucky situation. We're a private company, but we can kind of be profitable any year that we want. Sometimes we've decided to hire a developer a little bit early and take on a little bit of debt, but we've been able to pay off those loans pretty quickly. And so, we're always kind of balancing. We have all these different things planned out that we want to do versus, making sure we have enough money and everything. But we've always balanced it quite well. And CEO Chris Austin has just been great at that. Just really kind of thinks ahead, and it's kind of turbulent times. That, like I guess like a year ago, we were kind of worried about Barnes and Noble. The thought of Barnes and Noble suddenly disappearing like Borders did, and so we kind of kept things lean to make sure that if they just suddenly disappeared, it wouldn't cause us any major issues, and that we could pay authors for what was owed to them by Barnes and Noble. We were quite glad when they got bought by the private equity firm, and so we're interested to see what James Daunt does with the company. Hoping he cares about the digital side of it. So
yeah, I do wonder if at some point the big publishers will end up buying all the bookshops, because it's an obvious thing that they need the bookshops to.
They
to be there.
they very much need that supply chain. Like, they need things to work the way they are now for their economics, and so I could see one of them possibly doing it.
And that sounds great. The business setup, it's very similar to us at SPF. Actually, we have no investors and no shareholders apart from us who own the company. So there's no pressure any year.
Isn't that like a great feeling?
It's a great feeling, yeah, because otherwise you're effectively working for someone else, and you're having to skew your company around rather than take a year without profit.
Yeah,
for investment.
and we've seen a lot of the companies that got the private funding or the funding through venture capital that have just kind of flailed around from business model to business model, looking for something that worked because their investors want to make money.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
and
they're patient for so long. I guess investors at some point they need their money back. Then they.
So it's been nice just to kind of, my bosses have never been like sell. They've never really pushed, and so it's kind of allowed us to do the right thing by the authors we work with, and not. I've never had to worry about an author going to Kindle Unlimited. We've made it very easy for people to go in and out as fits their business model.
Yeah. So just circling back, because you mentioned the print on demand beta program, I know people will be interested in that, particularly if they're exclusive at the moment. So what phase is that at the moment?
Kind of in the round two. Like we announced it at NINC a year and a half ago, and then we did a pretty long beta last year. We realized that there were a lot of people. We kind of built it into our overall workflow that we have with ebooks. From the beta, we found out there were a ton of people that wanted to do print only with us. So those people that were in KU. And so we decided to redo the user interface for that. We've also been busily looking at, Mark is in a business development role with us. He's been out there looking for printers that can serve like the UK and the Europe and Australian markets, because they are a little bit harder to reach for author copies. So we've been addressing those two problems. I think at the end of March, we will be opening up the print beta with the new user interface. And so we're excited to go ahead with that. And then we should have that done fairly soon this year. Good.
And for the rest of this year, I mean, people do like bumping into you and Kevin and Mark and stuff, but it's been a disruptive time. We got our conference on yesterday, but really it clung on by its fingernails over the last week or so. And I do feel had it been a week later, we probably would have had to have cancelled it, and things seem to be changing every day. So where will people see you at conferences this year?
We are evaluating that in the same way that you are. We really hope so, because we love the conferences. It's been like our primary marketing tool, is being at the conferences and getting to know the authors. It's hard to say with the coronavirus situation, just what will happen and what restrictions there will be on travel. I'm anticipating probably this stuff through the summer, maybe getting canceled. I'm hoping the fall will be different, because I always look forward to Novelist Inc. and some of those conferences that I'll go to frequently.
Yeah, it's nice to be on the beach in September, isn't it?
It really is. And just like to hear all the great speakers and just to have a chance to see it. Like it becomes kind of like going to camp, where you see friends once a year, or maybe you get lucky and get to see them a couple of times a year. So,
Well, as a veteran conference organizer now, I've got one under my belt. My heart goes out to the organisers of Nink and 20 Books of Craig and so on, because they must obviously just be going through what we've just been through, is just watching the news every day and working out where they're going to be.
I know. Hey, people don't realize just how much work organizing a conference truly is.
I know how much work.
Yes.
Everyone in this room knows how much work there is now. So
you guys did a great job.
Thank you.
I have to say, I really am looking forward to next year. Europe and the UK needed a conference like this, and so
yeah,
definitely seeing the demand of you guys selling out so quickly.
Yeah.
So
well, we're already talking about it.
Yeah.
So it's the morning after the night before, so which is excellent. Dan, always a great pleasure to catch up with you. And,
great to talk to you.
Yeah, it's always exciting to see to such a community author-focused business doing well. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
There we go. Lovely Dan Wood. Always great to spend time with him, and brilliant that he came over and supported us at the conference. It was so much fun to see him. That was literally the day before we all got home and haven't left the house since. I've hunkered down at that point as this thing swept across the globe. Interesting areas, I think, that he's talking about, particularly audiobooks and print books and libraries. Libraries not so much, because ebook libraries, these lending libraries online at the moment, would be in breach of the KU contract, the deal you do with KU to remain exclusive with them. Although Dan did say there is pressure on Amazon to change that, because they're lending libraries.
You don't have to be in KU to be able to selling on Amazon. You could just be non-exclusive with Amazon, and then you could be anywhere you want.
Yes, you could, but I'm talking for the KU people who don't use aggregating services, which is kind of an area he was developing. And I think Publish Drive, other aggregators, are thinking a lot about this now, about the people in KU, what they can offer them. So those print avenues and the libraries, which I think is a really interesting concept. People join these libraries, they can borrow a book one at a time for a few days and hand it back and replace it with another one, which, as Dan explained, he would like Amazon to see that as not being in breach of the exclusivity, but whether that will happen or not, I don't know. But there was some world pressure on that. But anyway, interesting area. You don't want to leave money on the table, right? Audiobooks, prints, wider distribution. These are areas that are more complex, and that's the role that an organization like D2D can have, because it makes it easier for an author to click a few buttons and do it, rather than go to every organization and work out how this all works. That's an avenue for both parties.
Yeah, they're great as well. I mean, I love those guys, and also just from, I use them to get into Barnes and Noble. So I tend to launch my books. The way I do it now is, because they're all in KU, but I'll launch them for 3 or 4 days on the other platforms, so that people on those platforms can take advantage of that. And so Barnes and Noble, I can't get into that from the UK without quite a lot of faffing. And the other thing, which I never used to do this, but then in the end I just thought it was working out how much my time is worth. To get something onto Apple is a bit more complicated than it is on most of the other platforms, and you need a Mac with iTunes Producer and stuff like that on it. And I changed Macs not too long ago, and I haven't got around to re-uploading Producer and then going through the authentication process, which is quite involved. So what I've been doing the last couple of books is just uploading it through Draft2Digital, which is very, very easy. Let them get it onto Apple and then take it down when I'm ready. And although, technically I'm losing 10% because that's their take, I'm quite happy to let them have that, just because I'm too busy or too lazy, depending on how you want to cut it, to do it myself. So it is very convenient. It's a very convenient way to get onto those, or onto every store, really. So no, they're good guys. And Dan is one of the nicest guys. He's so lovely.
Yeah, he is a lovely guy. Well, they all are, the D2D team. But it's also interesting.
Apart from Lefebvre, he's awful.
Yeah, he's a vicious man. He's quite violent.
He posted a picture of his nipples the other day. This, for those who don't know, this is Mark Leslie Lefebvre, once of Kobo, who I know will be listening to this. He usually listens on his commute, though I'm sure that's not happening at the moment. But no, he posted a picture of, I think I may have prompted him to do it, but he posted a topless picture the other day, which really was, I've struggled to sleep since I saw that.
You asked him to send you nudes?
Yeah, pretty much. Sexting,
nudes,
basically, yeah. So that was unpleasant, but yeah.
I'm sure that's all fine.
Apart from him, they're all lovely.
They are lovely, and Mark is lovely too. And what's interesting also, talking to someone like Dan who's been there right from the beginning, or nearly the beginning, he's not quite a founder, I think he's like first or second employee.
Very close, yeah.
Yeah, is just their helicopter view of what's going on, what's changing, how things were, because they see a lot of these trends in their data. And all these organizations are getting to the point now where they've got enough data to be able to do proper analysis of how how this community, this world, Self Indie, has grown and where it's going.
Yeah, he's a good person to chat to. So over the last year, I think I usually see him at bars at conferences. So
Yes.
I had a drink with him at the bar in Bali in January last year. And then we had dinner in Vegas. And you came to that as well. And then where else did I meet him? Oh, Florida.
Yes.
And then London. He came to our kind of our sponsors and speakers dinner on the Sunday before the conference. So I had a nice chat with him then. And then there was he was going to come down to the house. He was going to come and stay with us for a day, but it was in the middle of the kind of the ramp up to COVID-geddon. So we decided to park that till next year.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Right. Well, look, I've got a roast to cook in the house because it's a non-stop round of domestic bliss in this lockdown. I don't know what tonight's treat is. I probably won't sing at the children tonight. They looked a bit horrified when I did Sweet Caroline last night.
That's abuse. Childline probably got a phone call from your son.
I do think as Scouts
woofing,
Scout wants you back. I think Sweet Caroline's a good call for karaoke because the crowd join in and it drowns you out a little bit.
That's true. That's quite a good one.
Good. Well, on that karaoke bombshell, we'll probably leave it for now. Yeah, we'll let you know what's going to happen next week in the Facebook group, but we may well have a COVID episode and you can perhaps post some questions in. No, I was going to say we've got a webinar coming up. We do have another one in the pipeline, which is going to be the Book Brush, but we've just had would have had the webinar on Wednesday on Instagram Stories with Stuart Grant, but it's a reminder that for this whole COVID period, the SPF University is free to become a member of, and you'll be a member for life if you get in. After that, it'll be a bonus part of signing up to a course or supporting the podcast. And if you want to take advantage of that, go to selfpublishingformula.com/SPF free. Good. That's it, Mark. We are released from our slightly unusual you at home, me in my office arrangement. That's how it's going to be, I think, for the next few weeks. Goodness knows how long, but for a while. Let's just take it 1 week at a time at the moment. Stay safe, everyone, and I guess that leaves me just to say that it's a goodbye from him.
And a goodbye from me. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Get show notes, the podcast archive, and free resources to boost your writing career at selfpublishingshow.com. Join our thriving Facebook group at selfpublishingshow.com/Facebook. Support the show at patreon.com/selfpublishing show. And join us next week for more help and inspiration so that you can make your mark as a successful indie author. Publishing is changing, so get your words into the world and join the revolution with the Self-Publishing Show.